Welcome to John Who, the ultimate podcast for fans of doves, slow motion choreography, hyper-violent gunfights, and heartfelt bromances. My name's Daniel, and I'm a huge fan of the epic films of legendary Hong Kong director John Woo. I'm joined by my co-host Drew, a complete newcomer to Woo's filmography.
What's up?
And fellow superfan Joe DeSimone. Hey Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here.
We have been planning this for a long time. Joe has been a friend of mine for over a decade. We've actually, with our small friend group, been doing an action movie sort of bracket for the past couple of weeks. Drew, there have been some debates.
Really?
But I think we have a very curated list of action movies. Some of them are John Woo movies.
Whoa, very nice.
Yeah, we're at a point right now where it could be a John Woo movie versus Blade 2 for the final, for the semi-final. It's very cool. We've got some like cool movies on the list, but for this episode, we'll be discussing Hard Target. But before we share our thoughts and Drew's first impressions, let's first dive into the background of Hard Target with some production information. So this movie came out on August 20th, 1993. It's starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, Lance Henriksen, Yancey Butler. The screenwriter was Chuck Ferrer, and this movie was made on a production budget of $9.5 to $20 million. In its opening weekend, it made just over $10.1 million and had a worldwide box office of $31,636,358. In some episodes of John Woo, John Who, oh my God, that's difficult to say, we talked about the legs of a film if that data was available. We weren't able to do it for Last Hurrah for Chivalry or Hard Boiled, but we were able to do it for Face Off. We do have data to get to basically attribute a legs value for Hard Target. For our audience, just as a reminder, a leggy film refers to a movie that has strong and sustained box office performance over an extended period, as opposed to movies that earn most of its revenue in the opening weekend and then quickly taper off. This is widely accessible for Western films on a website called The Numbers. So for reference, one of the leggiest movies is 1981's Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it has a score of 27.17. So the higher the number, the better. Hard Target's legs, 3.13.
Hell yeah.
So it's no Raiders of the Lost Ark. But this is considered one of John Woo's cult classics from his Hollywood films. So let's dive into the discussion. On IMDb, their description of Hard Target is as such. A woman hires a drifter as her guide through New Orleans in search of her missing father. In the process, they discover a deadly game of cat and mouse behind his disappearance. Drew, did that summary actively convey what you experienced as a first-time viewer of Hard Target?
Actually, he's not a drifter. He's a proud maritime union worker.
Yeah. Do you think you should have put that?
Didn't pay his dues.
Yeah, he didn't pay his union dues, and they wouldn't let him on the job site because, he wasn't a member of the union.
Yeah. He's a proud ex-maritime union worker.
Yeah, looking to make just over $200 to get back into the union and nothing more. But Drew, what did you think of the movie?
So if we're comparing it to the IMDb, like, I don't know what you call it, like
the summary.
The summary. I mean, that's pretty accurate. That's basically what happens in the film, right? But I liked it. I actually liked it quite a lot. I think it's up there with some of the other films that we've watched. I think I kind of liked it a little bit more because it was shorter.
That's fair. Now, you've watched 4 John Woo movies. You've watched Face Off, Hard Boiled, Last Hurrah for Chivalry, and now Hard Target.
Yes.
Where does this kind of rank for those 4 for you?
I think Face Off is number 1. So, still so far, and maybe always.
Okay.
What a silly film.
Okay.
I would say then I might say Hard Target is claiming number 2 for right now.
Over Hard Boiled.
Yeah, because I really enjoyed Hard Boiled, but Hard Boiled, in my opinion, just kept going.
Okay.
And
And
it
then
just
Last
felt
Hurrah
very
is last.
long. Last Hurrah, I take it or leave it.
Okay. I mean, I think that's how most people felt when that movie came out, because it
Yeah.
caused John Woo to go into a 7-film slump after that movie.
Yeah.
But one thing I forgot to mention before we dive any farther, because I want to know, like, Joe, I want to know your thoughts on this. This movie is actually fairly accessible. You could find it on DVD, Blu-ray, and then you could purchase it on Google Play, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV. I have a quadruple feature DVD that I'll holding up to the screen. It's
Whoa.
got Hard Target, Time Cop, Street Fighter, and The Quest. Yeah, I'm not a Van Damme fan. I'm just a John Woo fan, and this was the cheapest thing I got at the time. I don't even know when I got this, but this has been in 2008. I've had this since 2008.
Fun fact, the cut of that is different than the cut of Hard Target that is on the 2-film version of that same DVD publisher's catalog.
I gotta get the 2-film version as well. There are multiple
They're
cuts.
like a minute and a half difference in terms of their edits. There are a whole bunch of different cuts of this film because of how brutally it was cut by the studio.
Yeah, that's going to be a theme when we're talking about this, because this was John Woo's first Hollywood movie. And Hard Target is actually viewed as like the first major Hollywood studio production to be directed by an Asian filmmaker. So it's kind of groundbreaking in that. It's not groundbreaking in the storytelling. It's not groundbreaking in the acting. But it's groundbreaking for just existing. It's groundbreaking because it was a job for John Woo. It's the production of this movie was very interesting. It had like a pseudo shadow director in Sam Raimi, because the studio was afraid that people wouldn't understand John Woo because he couldn't speak English very well. But then at the same time, John Woo struggled because Jean-Claude Van Damme also couldn't speak English very well. So they brought in another director to be like a fallback in case John Woo failed. And then they had a lead actor who was notoriously difficult to work with and couldn't speak English very well. It was a very chaotic film. And it's the first time John Woo had to actually work in a Hollywood environment where directorial authority is very different from Hong Kong. So he basically went from being the boss to basically governing by committee on this film. But Joe, I want to ask you, obviously, I know you're a huge fan of action cinema in general. But what are your thoughts on Hard Target as a movie?
Oh, that's a big damn question. I figure we're going to dive back into this well for the next hour.
Yes.
In short, I think it's fine. I think it's firmly middle of the road. I think enough of John Woo's brilliance from When People Leave Him Alone survives. I think it's still just, it's wooden acting. It's a trash script. It is in many ways a better film for how silly certain choices are. Like the fact that like the main character who is introduced in the latter half of the film is a Cajun played by Wilford Brimley is a choice I could not see any other sane director making, but is genius and stupid and ridiculous and silly. It has more in common with what I would have expected like MTV to put out in the day than a major blockbuster action film. But I think if you try to view it as something serious, it fails. It's short, it's punchy, a bunch of guys get shot on the dick, and that's always fun. But for the most part, like that's not why I come back to this film and have a good time with it. I come back because it's stupid and ridiculous, and I can always have somebody else who hasn't seen it before watch it with me, and they're going to laugh when a snake gets punched in the head. Like, there are so many beats in this
Oh
film
my
where it's
God.
just like, what are you even doing? But it's great.
This is the kind of movie that a group of action movie enthusiasts would put together if they were just writing notes on cue cards and then passing them around. And I love it for that. I think the movie is ridiculous. It doesn't take itself seriously. It doesn't treat itself like an artsy movie. It is what today would be a direct to DVD or a direct to streaming movie, like The Beekeeper. Joe, you mentioned earlier that there is this feels like just enough of a John Woo movie that if you rewatch it, you would know that it's a John Woo movie. There are some other movies like Broken Arrow that don't feel like a John Woo
Yeah.
movie. But Drew, as somebody who's like only experienced 4 John Woo movies up until this point, what about Hard Target felt like, John Woo's style was actually coming through on the screen?
There was a dove.
Yes.
There was a dove that landed on top of the dog tags, and I was like, "That's a John Woo thing." I know enough about him to know that's a John Woo thing. The classic like sideways jump with the dual pistols. That's a John Woo thing for sure. I mean, I'm sure other action directors have done that, but in my brain, because of how often he does it in his films, that is a John Woo thing. Overall, like it felt pretty John Woo to me. Again, based off of a so far very small sample size, based on like how the camera work was done. I actually thought the very beginning part was interesting. How they did like this first person view camera of Bender when he was being chased after, and I was like, where is this going? And then I was like, oh, this is, oh god, oh well, R.I.P. Bender.
Yeah. I think you nailed it there. I think this movie also has like John Woo likes the theme of like dualism in his movies. Like this is very literal in Face Off. It's slightly more subtle and hard boiled. In this one, it's that like aristocrat versus commoner, high tech versus low tech in this movie. But I think this, and then it's obviously got all of the hallmarks of his action style, right? It's got he uses multiple frame rates for different action sequences. He always has the Beretta 92F. I think the one thing that's missing, and I think this is because John Woo isn't like the writer or wasn't involved in it because he didn't select the script. The studio gave it to him. Was this movie really lacks the John Woo hallmark of an opposed pair of like protagonists, right? It's just one hero. And in all of the movies that we've watched, it's like 2 protagonists, right? Like Face Off had like, 2 protagonists who switch faces. Hard Boiled is like an undercover cop and like a like tough as nails, like saxophone playing cop on both sides of like the same problem, right? Last Hurrah for Chivalry, 2 heroes, like
Come
2
together.
Yosha who come together for the common good. And then there's Hard Target, which is just Jean-Claude Van Damme. And there is no duality in the sense of a John Woo movie. There, of course, is the hero and the villain, but I think that Jean-Claude Van Damme's character like lacks the kind of depth that we've seen in other John Woo movies.
Oh yeah, we don't get at all why he does what he does, other than like he's doing it to do the right thing. But we don't really get a sense of why he does the right thing, at all. He just kind of goes for it.
This is just like a vehicle for Van Damme's martial arts and for him to be an action star, I think. I don't know.
I
What do you
do
think,
wonder,
Joe, about that?
like, so this is one of those questions where I'm like, I want to go back to the script, right? And it's not, I should have made time to read through it prior, but there's hints, right? He takes the job because he doesn't have the money to get on the fishing boat. He has an emotional investment to not Binder, who's killed at the beginning of the film, but the other homeless veteran who gets
Roper.
hunted in between them. Thank you.
He sheds a single tear as the
Yeah.
police let him cross the police line for some reason.
Like there's enough here that's like weak connective emotional tissue, but something. And I do wonder, like, did that stuff get edited out? Did John Woo not find it interesting and didn't shoot it well so that he wouldn't have to include it? Did Jean-Claude Van Damme just do such a crap job portraying it that it wasn't usable footage and they like edited around it? I mean, we've briefly mentioned how much this film got shot to death in the editing bay. That's obviously true around action sequences. I do wonder how much of it is true around the narrative of the film. Like, is there another version of this movie that goes to, I don't know, like Ernest Dickerson or somebody, like working at the same time in action, that keeps more of that?
Well, I've got a little tidbit here that might actually shed some light on that. So, as we all know, the Bible for this podcast is John Woo, the film's second edition by Kenneth E. Hall. But in it, he talks about a producer at Universal named Jim Jacks, who was John Woo's initial contact in America. And in some interviews with him, he noted that Chuck Ferrer wanted Armand Assante to actually play Chance. Jean-Claude Van Damme wasn't the first star. And Jacks himself in the interview said that he thought Antonio Banderas would be a better pick because JCVD, Jean-Claude Van Damme, plays this sort of like straightforward, stoic action hero, but there's no depth to his character. So reading his motivations is very difficult. I personally agree. I think it's JCVD's acting. And then in reading that, I think Antonio Banderas would be super cool because I think about him in like, the Mariachi trilogy and how awesome he is in those movies.
God, yeah. And working with comparatively little dialogue and communicates so much feeling in
which is kind of perfect for a movie like this because Jean-Claude Van Damme is like, he comes off as goofy, but there's just nothing about his character that like connects you to him other than like he's just doing the right thing, I guess.
Yeah.
It also doesn't help that the way they play him and Natasha together makes him even goofier because in many scenes, Natasha just sort of exists to fawn over his action sequences. And do like these sudden close-ups of her just like just, oh my God, he's so sexy. And it's just like, oh, okay. It makes him even sillier because of this like fawning over him.
Did you know that?
There's also the one time her role is not to fawn over him, but to substitute his inability to portray grief when the police detective is killed in the shootout. So like it does seem like it's either all of her role is just like occasionally comedy. We'll talk about best deaths and stuff later, but like, I don't remember the exact line, but like, you stupid bitch. And then she just shoots the guy in the dick like 5 times toward the end of the film. Like one of the funniest moments in any film in the 90s, in my opinion. But like everything that has to contain some element of pathos is just stripped off of JCVD and given to somebody else in this movie.
Yeah, everybody else serves as like the sort of emotional buckets for him. They're supposed to carry it for him. It's actually interesting because in the interview, Yancey Butler, apparently on set, towards at one point, her character Nat tosses him the gun, and then he dual wields the pistols towards the end. And Yancey Butler asked John Woo, "Why don't I just shoot him myself?" And John Woo said, "Because you're contributing to his movement." And John Woo has literally said that Nat, the character of Nat, is meant to make Chance look good. Like fawning over him, like part where you think he's going to lean in to kiss her, but he grabs the snake and punches it unconscious to the point where she passes him the pistol so he can dual wield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which,
it's
by the
so
way,
interesting.
when he knocks that snake unconscious, he does the snake version of grab his dick and twist it with his mouth.
Yep.
Oh
And
yeah,
I was like, oh,
Yep. Tears his rattle off. Yeah.
yeah. You watch,
Yeah.
and you're like, what is he doing? Oh, it's a booby trap. He knocks a snake unconscious to then set it up as a booby trap, and then he does the whole thing of like rigging like a little tripwire to the snake.
making the lack of the rattle totally pointless.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
instead of like rigging it so that they come across the snake and it's in the grass and it bites someone's leg because they don't realize it's next to them because it's not rattling. No, he completely dilutes the meaning of tearing the rattle off by just rigging the trap to bring you straight to its mouth.
Oh yeah, it doesn't make sense, and I think that's why I think all three of us kind of agree that this is very much like an action comedy, but maybe an unintentional action comedy in some way. A comedy in some ways. I don't know. What do you two think? Because you both have said that like this is like very much a comedy. Because John Woo's known for his like he's done comedy, but he mostly does like melodramatic action with little bits of comedy to kind of break up that sort of melodrama. But this one is like there are like very intentional comedic moments.
He attempts it here, right? And as you were talking about that story about Yancy Butler and John Woo's response to her, something that I'm like just running through John Woo heads in my film at rapid fire right now is like, it is melodrama, it's not drama, right? John Woo doesn't know what to do with portraying genuine human emotion across a wide cast. It's probably his greatest failing as a director, in my opinion. And thankfully, it's not what he tries to do, right? That is not the area of film he has ever attempted seriously to be in. It would be like if, I don't know, Steven Soderbergh started getting really into fight choreography. I mean, outside of Haywire. Like
that movie was kind of meh.
Yeah, exactly, right? But Steven Soderbergh does lots of other things really, really good, and he knows what he's good at, and he mostly sticks to it when it comes to his releases. So this is a movie that I think really runs into John Woo's Achilles heel, which is if you don't have a leading man who can carry your movie and portray all the gravitas and all the emotionality and all the coolness and all the greatness and also the heartbreak and all of these other things, you don't just need a fighter who looks cool. You can make a good actor who can fight look like an incredible badass. But if you don't have that core of the actor, it's gonna suck. And I think he almost lucks out in this movie that Jean-Claude Van Damme is the exact sort of bad that when he doesn't portray emotion well, he accidentally stumbles into comedy. And I think the rest of the people on this film are sort of picking up on it. Like, I think if you had cast Steven Seagal in this film, it probably would have sucked way worse. I think if you cast Arnold Schwarzenegger, it might have been substantially better as a comedy, because Arnold Schwarzenegger would have understood the comedy part of it, realized how ridiculous some of this stuff is, and run with it. But I mean, this is the most hyperbolic Lance Henriksen role ever. I
really like him in this. I think
it's his worst bit of acting I can remember, but I think he's having fun with it.
That's the thing, though. I like him in this. It's not like a fantastic role because we have so many other amazing roles he's in movies. I'm sure Drew, you might not have seen.
I had to Google who Jean-Claude Van Damme was when I watched.
Then we're talking about Lance Henriksen as well.
Sure, I don't know who that is either.
Have you seen Alien?
Yes.
He plays Bishop the android.
Oh, okay.
You've seen him in things. He's been in some other things too. He was in he's actually like a fairly prolific voice actor too. He was in I think he was in one of the Call of Duties. He's Hackett in Mass Effect. And he is the general in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah.
So he's
basically anything anything a nerd who likes military might be in, he's always going to have a role in. He is one of those actors
Alien
who's
versus Predator.
Yep. What a weird role for him. But I mean, even like lower down, right? Like Arnold Vosloo, who plays Van Cleef, right?
Imhotep.
Mostly well known for The Mummy, but an excellent actor. Clearly realizing this is not meant to be a strong dramatic role as a South African who hunts people for sport. He's having fun with it. Wilford Brimley, an incredible actor, portraying one of the stupidest roles he's probably ever put on film, having a great time.
It's and so dumb. He's just this like Cajun moonshine. He just makes moonshine, and he's got a bow and arrow. And
yeah, when he popped on screen, my first instinct was, "Who the fuck is this?" And then when the whistling starts, and I realize, Chance knows this guy, I immediately went, "Why the fuck is this?"
Yeah, because we don't understand who Chance is. And at first you're like, oh, this guy has like no connection to New Orleans. Oh no, wait, his uncle's here.
Yeah, they mention I think Van Cleef and the other guy, the aristocrat, mention it. That they kind of like knew who he was, and they said that he was born and raised in the bayou, but like that didn't lead me to think that his uncle was just chilling about making moonshine.
Yeah,
or that he himself was kind of a badass.
Yeah, he's that one scene where he shoots the arrow, and he could have totally killed Lance Henriksen's character, but he hits the moonshine, I don't know, the distillery, and then sets off all of these fires, and then it sets off the fuse for the TNT rigged to his house, and kills nobody.
Which he didn't need to do this. He didn't need to blow up his whole business, right?
He no reason to do it. No reason to do it. Because it's like, if he was going to blow them up, why didn't he rig the grass with TNT or anything like that? It makes no sense, which is why I was like, oh, like a kid put together this action sequence. And it's like a very creative one, but that's kind of how John Woo's action sequences feel. They're creative, they're over the top. They sometimes don't make sense, right? But I think that's what I love about his action sequences. Like when we watched Mission Impossible 2, there's a scene when two motorcycles fly at each other in midair, they jump off their motorcycles, shooting guns at one another before they collide midair.
That's
fun. And then it goes into martial arts sequence. Mission Impossible 2 is so fucking funny. And I think it's great. And they even made a skit of it with Ben Stiller where John Woo is actually choreographing it using action figures.
Oh, that's fun.
With Tom Cruise. He's like, oh, then you'll do this. And they have like all the terrain and everything laid out. And he has Tom Cruise as an action figure on a motorcycle. But it's fun. I think that's what this movie is. It's nowhere near peak John Woo. I think, in my opinion, it's his second best Hollywood movie. I think Face Off is his best one. I think, but I really like that this one had like martial arts in it as well, because he made use of like Van Damme skills.
Yo, he makes that sweet chin music 1,000 times in that movie.
Dude could kick, and like at the time when that movie came out, like Van Damme was like a huge star, like a giant star. Like cannot be like understated how big of a star he was at the time. This was the like peak action hero time. Van Damme. We already talked about like Steven Seagal, like Schwarzenegger. This was a time to be an action star. And I think that John Woo did everything in his power to make Van Damme look as cool as all of his other peers. Because honestly, like you said, Joe, if Arnold was in this movie, would have been way better, right? If Seagal was in this movie, at peak Seagal, would have been better, right? Van Damme is not the action star. right? He is not the best of the best, but I think John Woo made him look really good in this with all of the close-ups, and Woo's slow motion style, I think really highlighted like Van Damme's skills and kind of created some charisma there as well. Like when he blows off the Mossberg shotgun, the dust off of the shotgun after he
Yes.
gets his shotgun, that was a very cool scene.
Yeah. Actually, I was thinking a little bit about uh in oh god, what is it? Hard Boiled.
Yes.
We talked about how the main antagonist used the street sweeper shotgun in order to and it kind of showed that he was a callous, uncaring man who doesn't care about collateral damage, and showing that through the choice of gun, because the street sweeper was called that because of its indiscriminate kind of cone of fire.
Mhm.
It just sends buckshot that way in a very quick fashion and does not care about what it's hitting, right? And I thought it was interesting that both Jean-Claude Van Damme and his counterpart, sort of professional counterpart, Van Cleef, both used a shotgun, but one uses it for like a righteous cause, that of taking down these bad guys, whereas Van Cleef uses it purely for the brutality of it. Right, when he kills that one, like kind of gutter shop owner dude.
Oh yeah, he shoots him in the head in the car.
Yeah, with a shotgun,
With a
and he
shotgun.
kind of uses. Yeah, he kind of use. So they both use a similar shotgun, but in two very different ways or reasonings for why they use it.
That's
See, to
interesting.
that end, I mean, I think you're 100% right, because also it goes beyond Van Cleef and Jean-Claude Van Damme, right? Because Lance Henriksen's choice of weapon in the film is a single shot, breech loaded pistol.
Yeah,
Yep. You know what's interesting about that gun? So that's the Thompson Center Arms Contender.
I was about to say. So I looked it up on the firearms
Yeah.
DB.
And Internet Movie Firearms Database, but it's the same gun that was used by Philip Kwok as Mad Dog in Hard Boiled, right? The same honorable villain in Hard Boiled. It's also cool enough. That pistol was also recently seen in John Wick Chapter 4. Those are the dueling pistols that John and Kane use at the end of John Wick Chapter 4. But it was actually not John Woo's choice to use the Thompson Center Arms Contender as Emile Fouchon's like weapon. That was actually Lance Henriksen. He requested it. Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought that was an intentional choice by John Woo. But what the armor of the movie, his name is Robert Galati. He was actually the armor on Face Off and Broken Arrow as well. And he's been like really like forthcoming with like information. And he actually mentioned that Henriksen requested that weapon because it better reflected his character.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. So Lance Henriksen's character, Emile Fouchon, is a very calculated individual who's only concerned with that last shot, that last moment, the climax of the situation. Right? He is concerned about. He is a man with a plan, who is all about the execution of that plan. And I think in his brain, the best plan only requires one bullet.
Yep. My interpretation of that is that he there's a scene at the end when Arnold Vosloo is like, we need to get in the helicopter, we need to find this. And he actually stops him from getting in the helicopter, and he's like, no, we got to do this like the professional way, the right way. To me, he's like a very, very involved in his work, right? And having to load each shot is a way of kind of conveying that he is very purposeful with what he does. Every single shot is supposed to matter. You'll also notice that at one point when Chance and Nat escape on the train and he's about to shoot them and he no longer has a shot, he unloads the gun and he puts the bullet back into his bandolier. And so every time he loads the gun, he has a reason to load it, and he doesn't carry it. He carries it unloaded. And on top of that, it's like a Yeah. Sorry, you go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, sorry. The helicopter scene in particular, because the exchange they have between Vosloo and Henriksen is, I can take him from the air. Anyone can take him from the air.
Yes.
Like, he wants this kill. I just want to point out, I find it very funny that if we are saying that, like, this is a sign of professionalism, competence, seriousness about your work, so the most automatic large number of rounds weapon shown in the gun is in the cemetery fight scene, with the guy who pays Henriksen to kill
Oh
the
yeah.
veteran in the middle of the film, who then gets shot a bunch of times and then Henriksen kills. So definitely the most incompetent. But on the flip side, if I am saying this is a sign of competence, well, the only Asian American killer in the entire film, or I don't actually know if he's American, he might just be Asian, is the guy who uses the crossbow.
Yeah, the pneumatic crossbow.
Yeah, which I find, I'm like, all right, if this is the subtle meaning you were trying to communicate, well played, John Woo. Film full of just like no Asian people in this entire movie, but your choice of arms is a message about your competence, and the one Asian guy uses the pneumatic crossbow. All right, I like it.
I never thought about that. I don't know if he's Asian. His name is Robert Apisa. Maybe.
What?
He's
I want to see what
he was also in another John Woo adjacent movie. He was in The Replacement Killers as well.
Really? One of the
he
first
played
movies I remember seeing as a kid.
Yeah, that's going to be a separate season of John Who, because it's we're going to do a season on just the non-directorial efforts of John Woo. Replacement Killers is one of those. I think that Henriksen's, and I just had this thought, you know those like elephant guns? They're like a single shot rifle that
Like in
like high
Jumanji?
caliber.
Yeah, like the giant 4-bore.
Yeah, the giant ones. They're a single shot. I wonder if the choice of the single shot pistol is also supposed to mirror that.
Huh.
Right? Because
yeah,
when he
he's a big
fires
game
it,
hunter.
he's a big game hunter, right? And he fires it, and that like it's like a 45 caliber rifle cartridge. That thing is like a fucking rocket launcher. In that like warehouse scene when he's shooting, there are huge explosions with every shot. And I wonder if that's meant to sort of mimic that sort of like elephant rifle.
Yeah, that makes a lot
Makes
of sense
to me.
It makes a lot of sense.
But that he's also like, I think that choice of that weapon also mirrors that that duality of like the aristocratic sort of world and the world of the commoners, right? The way he stands, like he has that like stance. It's very like elegant compared to, you know, Van Damme, who's got the dusty Mossberg shotgun.
It's interesting you keep saying aristocrat or like highfalutin. I mean, I know Henriksen is portrayed, you know, in that way. He's playing the piano.
I think of like the hunters, right? You're an aristocratic hunter. Like the motorcycle, the guys on the motorcycles are basically your hunting dogs, and even
but they're portrayed in like a Hawaiian shirt with an AK. Those guys are like they might have money, but I don't think they're supposed to read as aristocratic. I think they're supposed to read as like Goombas. Like they're wealthy Goombas, but like that's your Tony Soprano. That is not
I don't think his
table.
I don't think his associates. I think it's just Henriksen's character.
Gotcha. And he is lording over all these people who he's letting in.
He doesn't like. There's one scene where he's so frustrated he just trips one of his guys. He like knocks him over.
Yeah, I laughed so fucking hard when he just fucking
ruins
that dude in front of everybody else.
No reason. He's like, because he like that guy fires the grenade launcher and then he's like, "Yo, what the fuck?" and he trips him. And like he strikes me as like the I'm like I have this. He literally has one of those like plantation mansions, like one of those manors he's playing the piano in. He strikes me as the aristocrat, and he's got all these goons who he's kind of like, oh, these guys fucking suck, but at least my second in command, Van Cleef, is the one who deals with them.
Doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, doesn't he refer to his men as dogs at one point?
They're like his hunting dogs.
Yeah, because when the first I guess buyer hunter dude, when he in the middle of the film when he wounds the army veteran
Yes.
and doesn't want to finish him off. And he's like, "Don't embarrass me in front of my dogs."
Not DAWG. Literal
No,
DOG.
no.
My dogs.
No.
That's for Hard Target 3, because there is a Hard Target 2.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, no association with John
Turns
Woo.
out it's really not incredible. It's really bad.
It's very unremarkable.
Nah, damn.
Yeah, that's one of my pieces of trivia. We could actually go to some trivia right now. We've talked
Hell
about
yeah.
One Piece, and it's the Thompson Center Arms Contender. But one thing I did want to mention is there is a reboot / sequel called Hard Target 2. And there is some weird, this is one thing that we're seeing a lot of with John Woo's movies. There are all these like connections. And Hard Target 2 came out in 2016, and it stars Scott Adkins. And in that movie, Adkins is a disgraced MMA champion who is basically hired to play this game of human cat and mouse in Myanmar. But what's so neat is that Scott Adkins was in John Wick 4, where we see the Thompson Center Arms Contender being famously used. So yeah, there's an unofficial sequel. We won't be covering it on this podcast because John Woo is not involved, and also it's not a movie I want to talk about. And then I wanted to call out that like Chuck Ferrer, who was the writer of the movie, was actually a former Navy SEAL. He was on SEAL Team 4 and SEAL Team 6. Not only was he the writer, but he also played Natasha's father, Douglas, who gets killed in the beginning of the movie. But I don't know, Joe, as somebody who has watched this movie a couple of times and is a John Woo enthusiast, do you have any tidbits about the movie?
So, in trying to research as much as I could ahead of time for this thing, I did pull a quote from straight from John Woo, but I was turned on to it because always shout out your sources. A writer named Priscilla Page used to write for a very good publication called Birth Movies Death, now writes for everywhere now that BMD's gone. But it's about Sam Raimi because we talked about, I mean, in broad terms, the production hell of this film, the fact that John Woo was shadowed by and then kind of pretty established American director, because this was the first time a major like Chinese action cinema director was brought in to make a major Hollywood film. And I think there was a lot of like hate and misunderstanding towards Sam Raimi because of the state of this film and his name being attached and what was his involvement. But this is straight from John Woo. About Sam Raimi, I was very impressed with him. I liked his work, and I found he was a man with a big passion for film. He gave me a lot of great respect and support in many ways. Like I had never known that movie stars in Hollywood had so much power. They had final cut approval, final draft approval, lots of final approvals. And I was so shocked because in Hong Kong, the director is everything. The director has so much freedom to do whatever he wants. So while I was cutting the film with my editor, Bob Murawski, Van Damme wanted to do another cut with the chief editor from the studio behind my back. Of course, I was so upset. It's not right. This is my movie. I should do my own cut. And Sam wasn't happy as well. So he arranged a big meeting. He got together all the producers and the editor, and he was screaming in the meeting, "This is a John Woo movie. Let John do his work." And he made everybody back off, and I was so grateful. And then a couple years later, I found out the reason the studio wanted him on the set. They had asked him to watch over me in case I had any kind of problem, like I couldn't do a scene or had difficulty communicating with my actors, and the studio would have him take over the job. And Sam would have never done that and would have never wanted to do that. Every time he would come on the set, he just came in a few times to ask me to dinner, and we'd have a great time having drinks and talking about movies and exchanging experience. And I don't know, for
That's
whatever product comes out for the consumer to watch, the fact that behind the scenes, there are still just people at the top of their respective crafts being like, man, I don't want to mess with you. I don't want these corporate suits to mess with you. I just want you to make the art that I know you're capable of making, and I will step in and help you out if they start being dicks. That raised both of them in my eyes beyond their natural talents at the actual job they do. So
that's cool. I mean, I'm already a fan of Sam Raimi. he has so much range as a director.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you just look at Spider-Man and then Evil Dead. Like, it's
yeah.
incredible. It's just like Peter Jackson with Brain Dead and Lord of the Rings. Um, there were a lot of people who were genuine fans of John Woo working on this movie. There is a one of the set decorators, Michelle Pollock, was a huge fan of Hard Boiled, and she was responsible for the apartment where Nat's father lives. You know, when they go to talk to the landlady and stuff. So this set decorator purposely put two bird cages in there as a nod to the opening scene of Hard Boiled, which I think is a really cool tidbit. Because remember, Drew, there's the dim sum scene where there's all the bird
Yeah,
cages
yeah.
where they hide the guns. Like, I think that's like a really cool, like, and very subtle thing, because bird cages, a lot of people associate them with John Woo because of their presence at those tea houses that he featured a lot in his movies. But I thought it was really neat that a production team member was such a fan that they purposely put that into this movie to have more of that John Woo identity in it. On top of the
Daniel, does
fact
your
that, oh, go ahead.
sorry, just speaking of like birds, doves, things like that, obvious John Woo staples. Something that like just quirked up in my brain as I was rewatching Hard Target yesterday is there are so many fewer doves and so many more pigeons in this movie. And I do wonder if that was like the producer stepping in and be like, guys, people don't have doves in the South. We got nasty, gross birds. Like
we gotta pick the dirty cousin of the dove for this
exactly.
movie. I think
Yeah.
I never thought about that way. The one thing that I did think was that the dove has far more of a literal role in the movie than a symbolic one, because it literally is like, motherfucker, they carry two dog tags. Like, there's literally the dove points Chance towards a clue.
Yep.
Maybe
And then
that's
Chance
why.
later kills the dude who kills the bird, right? In the Mardi Gras
Yeah, because
ending scene.
the bird shits on him and then he like fires his MP5
Yep.
up into the ceiling.
Then he shotguns a gas can onto the dude, and him and his bike shoot out the front of the building.
Yeah, the most ridiculous thing. It would never work. It would never work. Like the physics behind everything is like kind of wild. There's actually a quote from the armorer, yeah, about the shotgun in particular. What's really neat is that he because he's worked on so many John Woo movies, in his armorer's arsenal, he's gone on record saying that I always keep Beretta 92Fs, because if I ever get hired for a John Woo movie, I know I'm gonna. But there's a quote where he was talking about the shotgun that Chance gets from his uncle, the one that he like very beautifully like blows the dust off of. I actually really like that scene. I think it's well done, because it's really similar to like the wuxia warrior unwrapping their sword for the first time, because that's what that reads to be. The way it's like, it's kind of like, it's very like it's a shiny Mossberg shotgun too. It's not like a matte finish. It's got that nickeled finish, which I think is very much like a sword. But apparently the armor had a discussion with John Woo about the shotgun, because Woo didn't think that the blast of the shotgun was big enough.
Oh God.
Yeah, and so he said, so what he was talking about, he said the flash wasn't big enough, and he said, talking about Woo, I need the fire bigger. And I said, okay, so I hand packed a few more rounds and fired it, and he went, bigger. I packed a little more, and I thought, this isn't going to be much of a difference, so I went overboard. And he was standing outside. He was on the camera cart right in front of everybody. I said, Mr. Woo, I need to do a test fire for you. Are you watching? Woo said, yeah. So I go, fire in the hole, and I fire this shotgun round. And at about 50 feet away, I hear people go, geez, that was loud. And all I see is John smile. And I said, okay, John. And he's like, good, good, good. Big, big smile. And I thought, that's it. Okay. So everybody affectionately nicknamed the rounds rock loads for the show, but they were actually John Woo loads. It's so wild that he was like, nah, bigger. I need a bigger explosion. I need more pellets. So he overpacks the rounds.
So you're saying that they're taking John Woo's loads to the face?
That's what I was just thinking.
Yes. which is such a great tidbit, which is a great tidbit about this movie, because John Woo is like famously he doesn't like violence and he's never fired a gun, but he makes the most beautifully violent movies that feature guns. But that said, for every episode of John Woo, we do the highs, the woes, and the oh no's. We talk about what we loved, liked, and hated. And I'm going to start with you, Drew. I want to know what you loved about Hard Target.
Okay, what I loved most about the film was... Oh god, I should have thought of this ahead of time.
I could go to Joe because I know Joe's got stuff.
No, I got it. Hold on, it's there. I'm reaching
on the
for
spot,
it.
Drew.
I'm reaching for it.
Reach.
I think I honestly loved the villains the most because Van Cleef and Fouchon were, I think, just not compelling as in I was rooting for them, but they were just more interesting. And I enjoyed their sort of like chemistry, I guess. And I loved my favorite scene was the helicopter scene when he's like, no, anyone could do it in the air. And then like a scene later is just like, are you mad at me? Are you mad at me, Van Cleef? Like he's just very like, oh, are you mad at me? Van Cleef's like, I never get mad. I'm a professional. And he's fucking steaming.
He's fuming. I thought that I agree with you because but I also think that's a problem with the movie when the villains are actually more interesting than the hero, and it's supposed to be a vehicle for Van Damme. When the villains are far more interesting, that's a problem. Van Cleef is so funny because at the end when he dies, and he's like, he first of all, Chance puts the grenade down his pants. He kicks him, and he reaches into his pants and pull out the grenade, and instead of throwing it away, he tries to disassemble the grenade. This is not what I hated, but I thought that was so fucking stupid.
No, it's stupid. It's stupid for sure.
I thought it was so hilarious,
but
because
it's comedic.
His last line in the film is like, oops, and then it blows up.
He says he has enough time to see the spark of the fuse, say oops, and then the grenade explodes. So, Drew, you loved the villains. Joe, what did you love about this movie?
I think for me, it lives in all the little bits, right? Like, oops at the end. I've said my favorite death is Yancey Butler shooting that guy in the dick like 50 times after he just like pauses and is just like, you stupid bitch. And then just doesn't pull a gun on her, arms down, nothing. And then she just blows him away. It's all the little tiny things that I think make this movie good.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think the thing that I really loved and it stands out to me because I can recall it very vividly in my head is when Chance gets his shotgun for the first time, and I've mentioned this a couple of times now in this episode. I really love that moment. I think it's cool because I think that Van Damme genuinely looks cool there, and you know that the movie is now changing to a direction where he's now like hunting them. That's the moment. I really love that part. On top of the one kill where he throws the gas tank at the guy, shoots the gas tank, and it explodes with enough force that it throws the guy and his motorcycle out the window, but he's still on the motorcycle as he flies out.
There's no countervailing force, or Jean-Claude Van Damme would have been blown backwards through a brick wall, but like it's just whoop, out in front of everybody.
But it's just so ridiculous. So that's what we loved. What did we like? What was like, I really liked that moment for you, Drew?
I liked
this is like your
an hour and a half long.
Oh, the length.
No, I think that, and I'll have a whoa moment in a second, but just in terms of liking it, I enjoyed that I think Hard Boiled is like the infinitely better film. However, same with Face Off. However, like with Hard Boiled, in my opinion, it kind of dragged a little bit. Like it just kept going. Whereas like when I saw this movie was an hour and a half long, I was like tight.
Yeah. Okay. Joe, what did you like about this movie? What was your like? Because we've done the highs. What's your woe?
So when you originally had said the woes, I thought it was going to be the lowest of the lows, like WOE.
Oh,
so I don't know that I have mid range. Give me, you go first. Give me a second on this one.
I like the call outs to some like the call outs to some of his other movies. There's like and future movies, right? And I think I'm saying that these are things that I liked when viewed from the context of his entire filmography. I love that when he is Chance is dueling Van Cleef, there's a moment where they're running side by side and they're shooting their guns at each other, very much like the hospital scene in Hard Boiled. I like that there's a point when they're standing back to back and they're reloading their guns and they're having that banter, because that's just like Face Off. And like I really like the seeing John Woo experiment with things that he would later use in better movies, or he used previously in better movies. In this one, that's what I like, because I watched them. I was like, oh yeah, that's like Hard Boiled. Or like, oh yeah, that's like Face Off. Both movies that are way better than Hard Target. But I like seeing those there. I think those are cool. The little woo-isms that he's taken from another movie. But yeah, what about you?
I think I finally got it. So, I mean, Drew, you mentioned before, like the scene where Van Cleef puts the shotgun against Poe's head in the car and like blows his entire head off into the windshield. Oh, yeah. I think because of how bombastic the end of the film really is, it's easy to forget that kind of up until that like Mardi Gras graveyard scene, the bits of action are actually really, really brutal rather than woo actiony in a lot of cases. I guess you have the scene on the bridge, but I kind of wrap that all up into this like ending segment. But like it almost feels, I'm not going to say like a Paul Greengrass, but there's such intense brutality and all the action is very like punctual. And I think provides a really nice range of the kinds of crap guns can do in a movie within like a 90-minute span.
Like when they execute Poe, when they execute Roper in the street, when they kind of light him up on the street. Yeah.
Like these are very different than him coming down on a Mardi Gras float with 2 pistols and setting people on fire and blasting away. Like these are extreme ends of action. And you kind of get both in a 90-minute film, which is, I think, very rare.
Yeah, he literally comes down on like a stork with a shotgun shooting these guys. Apparently, one of the production difficulties was actually sourcing all of the floats for the final scene. Just having all of those built was apparently like a pain. Because, again, they were going to be blowing up. Yeah, apparently that was a huge pain.
If he had come down on a dove.
Oh, a giant dove?
A giant dove. Oh, nut.
But he did have the pigeon on his shoulder, and then he winks at the pigeon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
yeah, that'd be hilarious if he came down on a dove. That said, what do we hate about this movie? Drew, what did you hate about this
movie? God, it's gotta be the acting. Okay. You know?
Yeah.
Just Jean-Claude Van Damme's acting. And I would say more specifically, I really hated just the whole relationship and chemistry between him and Natasha Bender.
Yeah. Or lack thereof. There was no
the lack thereof. It was just very like wooden and stodgy. in a way that I did not enjoy, other than to be like, that's incredible in a really bad way.
Yeah, the snake scene is kind of only saved because he punches a snake unconscious and then bites off its rattle. It's such an odd scene.
Because
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's preceded by the "Do you trust me? Close your eyes if you trust me."
she kind of looks like she's like puckering up to kiss him too,
Mhm.
which is
Oh, she absolutely
Yeah.
is.
yeah.
Everyone expects that to be the big romance scene in the film. It is not.
Yeah. So JCVD's acting is the thing you hated most, Drew. What did you hate the most, Joe?
I think also the acting, but it kind of opens up another question for me, which I will be short about because I know I talk at length. But
Ooh, let's go for it.
just like what the shooting sequence was of the various shots in the film. Because as I said, I think there are sequences where the other actors in the film are clearly just hamming it up. They're having fun with it. Lance Henriksen is going off the rails, becoming more batshit. Vosloo is like cranking up the crazy. And I do wonder if like some of those scenes that are played more straight were shot earlier in the film before everyone realized like, oh, if we do this as a straight action drama, this is going to be trash. And like if they start kind of going a little more melodrama, a little more ridiculous, a little funnier later in the shooting. Because once you get to those sequences, and they are kind of splashed around the film, I think it's great. I think it's great acting. I don't think it's good acting, but I think it's great acting. So I think when people are trying to play it straight, that acting, dog shit, terrible, absolutely the worst. I would cut every single one of those sequences out of a supercut. But acting in general, I think there's some really fun bits of acting in there.
I love the part when Lance Henriksen is on fire and nobody's helping him. And
Yeah.
he's trying to
Yeah.
take his fucking coat off while he's on fire and holding his gun. That scene is just so ridiculous. Okay, so you hated the acting as well. I'm gonna pick out something really specific because this bothered the fuck out of me. And it's how Van Cleef removes the silencer on his pistol. So you see this for the first time when they kill the coroner. So there's that thing where he's like, "Oh, there's somebody at your door," and the coroner go and looks through the peephole, and then he shoots him right through the viewport. Van Cleef comes in, and in most movies they're holding their gun and they twist off the silencer. He holds his silencer and he twists off his gun with
Oh,
one
I
finger.
noticed that. I noticed that.
And it's not this like fucking one-off thing. He does it twice in the movie. And he's literally holding the silencer and he's just twirling the gun around this. And I watched it and it filled me with rage for no reason other than it just looks so dumb.
I mean, it's the most you shit, Daniel. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I guess it's something that I would be upset over, but it's so dumb because they're establishing them as like these professionals, right? The two of them, Henriksen and like Vosloo's characters, they're like the professionals. But then he's taking his silencer and he's just like twirling his gun around it. Like I half expect there to be a take where he spins it too much and then the gun falls on the ground. Like there totally could have been a take. That shit bothered me.
It should have been in.
That shit bothered me so much. But yeah, I could not wait to talk about how much I hate the fact that was a choice in the movie. Like, sure, like you could have a quirky character, like you could have your like weird sort of like henchman character. Like in Pirates of the Caribbean, there were like those two pirates who were like the comedic relief.
Yeah.
Like you could have your henchman who's like, you have one guy who does that and it's weird. Like, sure, it makes sense. But like the professional killer who like basically runs the operation, I don't understand. Rant over. I hated that shit so much. So we're gonna rate this movie. And Drew, while we rate this movie, I also want you to start thinking about your tagline. Although I know you might already have one. What are we gonna rate this out of 5 doves? We are allowed 0.5s. Drew, what would you rate this out of 5 doves?
I think I would normally give it a 3, but I think it makes me laugh, so I give it a 3.5.
Okay, 3.5.
Like
Joe.
I said, Hard Boiled is a way better film. I just really like that it's an hour and a half. Like,
Okay, fine. It gets an extra 0.5 for length. So this is Drew. You gave Face Off a 4.
yeah, I stand by that.
Yeah, you gave Hard Boiled a 4.5.
I stand by that too.
And you gave Last Hurrah for Chivalry a 3.
Yep, that feels about right.
Okay, Joe, how many doves would you give Hard Target?
All right, so I'm new to this ranking system or rating system, but are these against the broader body of all film, against John Woo films, against action films?
This is just like a personal rating against. We could say against John Woo. It's not against John Woo's films because Drew is just scoring it against the broader, the small pool of movies he's seen. So yes, so I would like you to score it out of 5 doves based on every action film you've seen. Then
2.5.
Joe gives it a 2.5.
Middle of the road.
Yes,
numerically middle of the road.
I think I would also give this a 2. I'm going to give this a 2, only because it would have been a 2.5, but I'm taking away half a point because of how Arnold Vosloo takes the silencer off of his pistol twice in the movie.
See, that kind of shit gives it a 0.5 in my brain. No, I think it's fucking hilarious.
That shit makes my brain hurt. If he's a goofy character, sure, but he's just professional. I don't get it. Anyways, we need a new tagline to end the episode. The release tagline for Hard Target is "Don't hunt what you can't kill." What is the official John Woo tagline for Hard Target, Drew?
Which I should say, that's a pretty good tagline.
It is a very good one.
And I'm going to say right now, we're not leaving until we figure this out.
Yeah, that the episode has to end with us getting a tagline. So what was you said you had some ideas on your tagline?
Okay. Hard target. Never soft.
Hard never soft.
Or hard target getting harder.
This hunt's getting harder. Joe, what do you think? We need a new tagline. It doesn't have to be sexual.
But it is funny.
It is funny.
Hard target. Go watch Hard Boiled.
I kind of like that one too. Are we gonna go? The official John Woo tagline for Hard Target is "Go watch Hard Boiled."
No, I mean that's gotta
go
to a worse film.
That can't be it. This is a tough one because "Don't hunt what you can't kill" is really good.
It's really good.
Hey there, this is Daniel from the editing room. I wanted to let you folks know that we cut out 25 minutes of Joe, Drew, and I trying to figure out a tagline for Hard Target. We had so many awful ideas. None of them were really that funny. So here's what we ended up with.
Hard target, never harder.
There's never been a harder target.
Hard target, there's never been a harder target.
Harder target.
I kind of love that. I kind of love invoking hard target twice in the whole sequence.
Fuck it,
hard target. There's never been a harder target.
All right, I vote I.
Okay, there it is. The official John Woo tagline for Hard Target is "Hard Target. There's never been a harder target."
This took us almost as long as the whole movie.
This we heavily edited this part, but this coming up with this tagline took us a whole 10 minutes. But and there are some bits that I definitely have to cut out because they came out as unintentionally very, very weird. Mostly on my part. So
I'm gonna trust you to take a chance out of this.
Yeah, I'm gonna do what Jean-Claude Van Damme tried to do to the movie. And luckily, there's no Sam Raimi here. That said, Joe, I want to thank you for joining Drew and I for this episode of John Woo. This has been a lot of fun. This season, I am being very intentional with the movies that I've picked, I've curated for Drew. We're trying to get the biggest spread of John Woo's filmography, from his Hollywood hits to his Hong Kong classics and one of his sort of genre misses. For the next episode of John Who and the season 1 finale of the podcast, Joe is actually going to join us once more, except this time we're going to dive into an objectively better movie in John Woo's filmography, The Killer. But that said, Joe, thank you for joining us. I am super excited to discuss The Killer with you. And Drew, I am very excited for you to watch an objectively better movie than Hard Target. I'm really
an hour and a half.
I don't actually know how long it is, but I think there's a high chance that you give this a 5 out of 5.
Really?
I actually think you might give The Killer a 5 out of 5. It is a very good movie. There are 2 films in John Woo's filmography that I think you'll give a 5 out of 5. I think you'll give it. There's a chance that you'll give it to The Killer, and there's a chance that you'll give it to A Better Tomorrow. Those are the 2 films that I think you'll have the highest chance of giving it a 5 out of 5.
Okay.
Not Paycheck?
No, I don't think Drew's going to give a Paycheck. John Woo did a movie called Paycheck, and it's an adaptation of a Philip K. Dick story with Ben Affleck.
It's John Woo's worst movie by far.
It's so bad.
But it's fun. It's so bad, but it's fun.
Yeah, but we're going to finish off season 1 with a bang, and that's going to be The Killer. But again, Joe, thank you for joining us. I look forward to chatting about The Killer with you next month. And Drew, thank you for trusting the order of film choices.
Hey, you know what? It's a process, and I'm just along for the ride.
You literally are, and I appreciate your trust in me, because by the end of this series, I want to make you a John Woo fan.
Yeah, I'm getting there. We're
getting there. But that said, thank you to our audience for listening to this episode of John Who. We'll be back next month with The Killer.